Hashem's loving grace. Good evening to everyone. 1 second, here we go. Now we're here. Good evening to everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. First thing, I want to start off with a happy birthday to Michael Ben Melech. May Tu B'Av, it's his birthday. Happy birthday, Michael. And may Hashem help you continue to do lovely things, and you have nachas from your family, your children, and success in everything you do, Baruch Hashem. Happy birthday to Michael. This is Ed. And a mazel tov to Rabbi Lazer Brody, because today is our anniversary. Baruch Hashem, we got married on Tu B'Av. Baruch Hashem. And I have to thank her. We say in Hebrew, Shali Shalah, that what Rabbi Kiva said about Rachel, that what you see here, I'm the fuselage, but the engine that makes things work is Rabbi Lazer Brody. And thanks, Mommy. Baruch Hashem, mazel tov. We have a special lesson tonight. Tonight's lesson is called the Tailgater. And we're going to learn, before you go into battle in the army, you have intel and you're prepared that, this is what you're going to be up against, what the intel has. There's a minefield here, and there's enemy tank battalion here. Today we're going to learn about the enemy. It's called the Tailgater, the name of tonight's shur. And the Tailgater is about the evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara. He's the arch enemy. He's not our friend. He tries to convince us that he's our friend. He's the arch enemy. And we're going to learn all about him and all about how to protect ourselves from him. And we've got a lot of ground to cover, but to get a deeper understanding of how he works, I'm going to explain some of the Kabbalistic workings. To try and keep it simple and keep it eye level and keep it clear, because it can easily get bogged down. But we have to understand the spiritual anatomy, what King Solomon alluded to in Ecclesiastes when he said, that Hashem created everything, this to correspond to this. What do you mean this to correspond to this? Everything on the holy side, there is an equal and opposite, Newton, an equal on the non-holy side, the impure side, that's this world. And that is to maintain free choice. And that's why Hashem created everything, because the Ramchal, as we'll mention again later, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, he mentions in the very first chapter of Derech Hashem, the way of Hashem, that if Hashem doesn't maintain a perfect balance of good and evil, then there's no context for reward. Because if you were coerced to do good, somebody takes a gun, puts it in your head, keep Shabbos. You don't get reward for keeping Shabbat, but somebody doing a gun in your head. Or somebody says, put on tefillin, got a gun in your head. You don't get rewarded for your tefillin because you're coerced. On the other hand, if someone coerces someone else to do a transgression, it doesn't get punished because it was under duress. So we're going to learn all about the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, and how he manifests himself, and he tries the way he operates. And this will help you so much protect yourself. When you know these things, you know how to protect yourself, get so much closer to Shem. Now, we have a dual purpose in tonight's lesson. In other words, if people that know me, I like to bring what's called cash on hand. Spiritual money that you can pay in your spiritual grocery store. Go and buy a loaf of bread. How can I get closer to Shem? How is this going to improve my life? Not to tomorrow, right after, as soon as I hear it. So it's practical. And I have two practical objectives in today's shur, in addition to helping each one of us get close to Hashem. This is in all my shurim. If a shur, I review a shur, they're prepared, and if I see it doesn't help me get closer to Hashem, I'm not going to give it to you. Because if I'm going to let you share and join together in my journey, we're together, we're working, striving to get close to Hashem. So if it doesn't have practical value, no, we're not the debate society in Oxford, and we're not the highbrows that talk and high-footing things. And this is practical. This is practical Judaism. We're talking about Emunah 101. This is really basic level of Emunah, and this is something we have to learn all their lives, because there are people that talk about the highest level of religious law, and then are in the level they do people split hairs in Gemara, and maybe double check their Emunah. Their Emunah needs fixing. Okay, so you don't build a penthouse before you have a solid foundation. You don't learn nuclear physics or a little calculus before you learn arithmetic, basic arithmetic. As far as spirituality, this is all basic arithmetic. Okay, but we're going into a little bit deeper in the numbers to help understand what we're learning. So our double objective tonight is, first of all, to bring Mashiach and build Beit HaMikdash. Okay, everybody wants that. We all want Mashiach, and we all want the Holy Temple. Okay, and number two, our second objective, is there anybody that doesn't want to end coronavirus, COVID-19? Raise your hand. Okay, I'm looking down. Anybody? No, everybody. Okay, we all want. So I think we have a double objective. We all agree on that. We all want Mashiach, and we all want to end coronavirus. Okay, I miss seeing everybody. I miss you coming to Israel and me coming to you. I want to be together. Okay, and I believe it's going to end. I believe it end. And they say, David Dome, you know what kind of wine I like for Shabbos at night? Okay, get it ready, because I believe, we're okay. Corona's going to be out, and we'll have a Shabbaton in London, then no one in Yerushalayim till when Mashiach comes. Okay, be able to right back. Okay, so we want to bring Mashiach and coronavirus. If we implement tonight's shiur, it's going to be a giant step for each of us individually and all of us together for Klal Yisrael. Okay, so we said this is a shiur about the evil inclination and how to protect yourself from it. Now, during the course of the shiur, we're going to learn all kinds of different names and nicknames for the evil inclination, but it's all the same aspect and it's all the same part. Just for example, there's an arm, so part of your body, it's part of you. And there's a leg, part of the body, part of you. And your heart, that's part of the body, because all different types of parts, but it's still part of you. It's you, it's you. Your heart, your lungs, your eyes. Okay, so we're talking about different aspects of the Yetzer Hara, but it's all part of the Yetzer Hara and how the Yetzer Hara is structured and how it affects our particular life. Okay, after we're going to leave time, have questions. Try to save your questions to the end and try not to chat questions in the middle. It's a little bit disconcerting, and I like to answer everybody and I like to pay attention to everybody, but it takes a focus off. We need to focus because we have a lot of ground to cover, and then we can completely focus on the questions, whatever you like to ask. If it's about the shiur, about anything else, feel free. One thing I want to remind you about, next week is Shabbos, is the Wednesday before Shabbos Mevorachim. So our shiur next week will be at convenient time for US East Coast. Okay, next week, the shiur will be at 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which is going to be, it's early, okay, it's going to be 4 a.m. in Israel, and it's going to be 2 a.m. in London. Okay, so London will see the replay of this shiur, all right? And Baruch Hashem, I think I got to double check when Australia is, and it's amazing, welcome Australia, that as far as our viewers go on, Australia has passed Canada, okay, which applaud for Australia. Okay, good. So welcome Melbourne and welcome Sydney and everybody who's with us from the big Lone Island continent. Okay, so what are some of the names of the evil inclination? When you mentioned the Satan, Satan, that nasty evil angel, the nations of the world call him the devil. Well, we call him Satan, all right? That's evil inclination. He's also known in Kabbalah as Sitra Acha. Sitra Acha means the other side. We say in English, the dark side. We speak Kabbalistic terms of the dark side. The dark side means the opposite of the light side. The light side is illuminated. We're referring to divine light. The light side is the light of holiness. The dark side is the side of the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, ritual impurity, spiritual purity, the light, and the darkness is impurity. Okay. So the spiritual impurity is a nice word for contamination. It's just like you had COVID, it's contaminated, it's a virus. This is spiritually contaminated. That's the Yetzer Hara. It's spiritual contamination. And the Yetzer Hara acts just like coronavirus. Just as it's transmitted through the mouth, it's transmitted through evil tongue, Lashon Hara. It's like transmitted through breathing on somebody else or through the nose. And the entrances to the body, this is just the way Lashon Hara goes in. The Yetzer Hara especially loves to use slander and forbidden speech to enter a person's soul. We're going to see how significant that is. And the significance, this is what, we're going to jump to the end for a moment. This is what is blocking the main blockage, the main obstruction to Mashiach coming and to the rebuilt Holy Temple, and another few other, going to have some few hair-raising facts we're going to learn tonight, that this is the main blockage for each one personally and for all of us. That's why the Chafetz Chaim, of all the 613 mitzvahs of Torah, Chafetz Chaim had all the Torah on his hand, but he concentrated on the laws of Chafetz Chaim, laws of pure speech. Where did he get his name, Chafetz Chaim? The Chafetz Chaim quoted Psalm 34, verses 13 and 14. It says, Mia Isha Chafetz Chaim. Who is the person that desires life? Chafetz Chaim means he desires life. So if you keep a clean tongue and you refrain from slander and forbid speech, it's good for your soul. It's good for your body. And the reason he concentrated on, because there are 31 mitzvahs just connected to Lashon Hara, and they're practical mitzvahs. Not only that, if we stop and think in the 613 mitzvahs of Torah, how many mitzvahs are connected with Beis HaMikdash? That we can learn about them, but we can't practice them because we don't have the Holy Temple. So many mitzvahs are connected with the work of the Holy Temple and the daily sacrifices, et cetera, et cetera. So practically, the 613, they get walked in, they're less than 200. And out of these less than 200, 31 are involved with the same period of time. Now, we're just coming off of Tisha B'Av. Okay, last week, we didn't have a lesson last week because last week at this time, this was Tisha B'Av. It's in Israel. Okay, I'm at night. You're just 2 in the afternoon, or in London 7 in the afternoon. In London, it was also Tisha B'Av, on the verge of Tisha B'Av. They're about to start their fast. Okay, but here we are, a week afterward. And why did we have Tisha B'Av? Why did we have Tisha B'Av? Because of two reasons. Because of the sin of the spies and sinas chinam, intramural hate, both the result of Lashon Hara. The spies, they spoke evil about the land of Israel. They spoke evil even about Moses' desire to bring us to the land of Israel. They said we couldn't let land of Israel. They spoke evil about Hashem, as if Hashem doesn't have the power to bring us into the land of Israel. So this was Lashon Hara about Hashem, about our spiritual leaders, and about the land of Israel. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Okay, and here the reason is the reason that we don't have Mashiach, and the reason that we're still in exile is because we have not yet corrected that sin. And that's why I'm so confident if we all, and it's just us, our group right here, if we all start to guard our tongues, very especially guard our ears, and not listen to Lashon Hara, it's going to divide. This is going to make a big, big impression in Shemayim, and especially take us home and our families. Everybody here's today's lesson. Okay, we go in our families, and we're already talking about a few thousand people already. But the number of people that normally see the shiur, normally hear it on Zoom or hear it on Facebook Live, and this is even without families, just individuals. We're already talking about 4 figures. Okay, so we take that and add it to the families and add it to the friends. We can have a monumental influence on Klal Yisrael. Just us right here. And you can see what this is going to do. This is going to evoke everything good. It's going to be good for your health, good for your parnosa. And today is Tu B'Av. It'll be great for your soulmate. We're going to prove all this. Okay, so we got to get down the road. Okay, so these are all the different names of Amalek. Now, Amalek has his yichus, his pedigree. What's Amalek's pedigree? Amalek, where does he come from? Amalek was the son of Eliphaz. Eliphaz was the son of Esau. Amalek is the grandson of Esau. This is in the revealed Torah. We see this in the revealed Torah. Okay, Amalek is the grandson of Esau. Who was Esau? Esau was the contender. He was a twin of Jacob. The Arizal tells us in Kabbalah that Jacob still had from his grandfather. Who was his grandfather? His grandfather was Terach. Avram's father was an idolater. And the great-grandfather, they were idolaters. So Isaac, even though Isaac was holy, 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 Isaac that put himself on the altars, was willing to sacrifice himself to Hashem. Okay, Isaac still had spiritual impurity. This ended in Jacob. Jacob became completely pure because his mother, Rivka, she had twins. She had Jacob and Esau. Jacob and Esau were the juxtaposed. This is according to the revealed Torah. According to the esoteric Torah, This is the war between holiness and the dark side. Jacob is holiness and Esau is the dark side. So Amalek is the grandson of Esau. Okay, so what is Amalek? Let's go to Amalek, where Amalek comes from. So Amalek's grandfather is Esau. Where does Esau get his soul from? From the idolaters. Okay, he got from the dark side grandparents. Where did they get their soul from? To do idolatry and speak bad about the Almighty? They got it from the snake, because the snakes came back from the Almighty. Who is the prime evil snake? That's the Satan. So Amalek's pedigree goes like this. It starts from the Satan, and then it goes to the snake. We're talking about the same Yetzer Hara. We're talking about the same evil inclination. We're talking about the same spiritual impurity. Just like on the spiritual side, we talk about in Kabbalah the Partsufim, the different aspects of the divine countenance. And there are higher countenances and higher and higher and higher. I'm not going to go into that. But corresponding to each level of the divine countenance, of the holiness, the holy countenance, is this equivalent level of the unholiness. Okay. Now, this is the upper level of holiness and the upper level of unholiness. And the upper level, this is the top of the 10th sphere, and it's called the Keter, the crown. Remember that corona in Latin is the crown, and that's where it comes from. And we're going to talk about which part of the crown it's going to come from. So we see it starts the equivalent to the highest level of divine light, the highest level of godliness, the highest level of divine emanation. That is the Satan. And Kabbalah, he is the one that can stand by the holy throne and complain against the Jewish people and complain. He's the one, he trips a person up down here and it goes all the way up. But he himself doesn't do it. He has his messenger on Lowell. Now, the Satan's manifestation down here below, it comes down. This is called the Shtalshus, the way it filters down in this world. In other words, we don't have pure divine light. It's got to be filtered down through the spheres. Otherwise, we would burn. We couldn't exist with it. We couldn't exist. So the same thing with the dark side. It would kill a person right away. The dark side has to also envelop itself so that it can exist in this world, because the dark side is also an angel. Dark side gets its license to work from Hashem in order to maintain the balance of power, the balance of free choice, because if there's not perfect evil against perfect good, there's no free choice. It's just like in a heavyweight battle, in heavyweight boxing or heavyweight wrestling or anything, in karate or judo, they weigh the guys. You compete against a person on your exact weight level. If not, in a different level, but so it's not fair. A person has to have the same weight level. So we're talking about the same weight levels. Way up at the highest point is of the dark side, that's the Satan. And then Satan filters down to the snake. The snake filters down to Esau, and that's Esau's angel that fought Jacob. And this filters down to Amalek. And now we can understand what we say 3 times a year. We say it every day. Tiskol, it's a mitzvah every day to remember Amalek. Why is it a mitzvah? And not only that, we read it in the Torah 3 times a year. We read it on Purim. We read it on Shabbos Kitetse, and we read on Shabbos B'Shalach and Shabbos Shir. We read the Maftir of Amalek, that we do remember Amalek and wipe out his memory. Okay, what do you have to remember Amalek and wipe out his memory? Oh, so why are we talking about if we have to wipe out his memory? Because the Torah says it's Milchama Amalek Dor Dor, that the war against Amalek in every generation. Well, how can you say wipe out Amalek and then war in every generation? We're still here. And we have to do, each one of us, to wipe him out, his influence out of our lives. That's our war. Amalek is the evil inclination that each one of us is fighting. Amalek is the evil inclination in this generation that every one of you, Eileen, you're fighting him, and David, you're fighting him, and Michael, you're fighting him, and Vivian, you're fighting him, each one on your own level. Amalek is allowed to attack you with the exact same power you have at the top. In order to overcome Amalek, you have to use all your powers, because Amalek has all your power. You're not fighting against the Amalek that attacks Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky. Rabbi Chaim's got his Amalek on his own level. Okay, so That's what Amalek is. So the story, what we read, it looked like stories in the Torah. No, it's a blueprint for the creation of the world. Just as we read about Jacob wrestling with the angel, this is every one of us, the descendants of Jacob in every generation. Okay, we are fighting Esau's angel, but it's Esau's grandson who's a continuation of the angel who manifests. Amalek is manifest in this generation, and that's why it's called, according to Kabbalah, Klipath Amalek, that the impure spiritual force of Amalek is called the Klipa of Amalek. Klipa is also another word for an impure spiritual force. The Yetzer Hara, it's also the Klipa, also the dark side, also the Sitra. Okay, now how does Amalek operate? Amalek operates like this, and this is how we got the name of the shur today, the Tailgater. All right, imagine that you're driving down I-95, and on 95, I imagine there's probably a 60-mile-an-hour speed limit. Okay, but the cop's not going to bother you if you drive at 65. You go over 65, you're taking a chance. All right, so you drive 65 miles an hour, or if you take it for our friends in the UK, you're on the highway from London to Manchester, and rather than being in the left lane, you're cruising in the right lane. Okay, and you're down the road on your merry way, in your Bentley, and you want to drive 65 miles an hour. There's this big truck, and it's in front of you, and the truck is going 30 miles an hour. Well, 30-mile-an-hour truck, and you're on I-95. You're from New York. You're on the way driving down to Miami. You want to get to Miami. You're going to have a good time in Miami. Get out of New York. Come on down to get to the beach of Miami. I want to get to Miami. Okay, I'm not getting to Miami. That you're stuck here in Delaware doing 30 miles an hour behind this great big truck. Okay, so the truck is going, and there's a solid white line, and there's no way to pass. Finally, an extra lane, and there's a dotted line, and you look and you can see clear sailing, and you pass it by. You step on the gas, and passing, you supercharge in there, and you hit 70, 75 pass, and now you go back to your 65. You think you're finished. With the truck, you might be finished. Not with Amalek. Okay, Amalek drives a different truck. Now that you've passed him, okay, he tailgates you. He comes at you. Have you ever driven in Israel? This is an art of Israeli driving. Okay, normally they tell you in America, when you learn driving school in America, that for every 10 miles an hour, you have to keep one car length. In other words, if you're driving 20 miles an hour, you have to do 2 car lengths. If you have to 30 miles an hour, you have to keep 3 car lengths. If you're driving 60 miles an hour, you keep at least 6 car lengths. Oh, not in Israel. In Israel, you're doing 60 miles an hour, so 100 kilometers, and the guy's right on your tail, right on Krish Seish. Right there, this is Israeli driving. But what happens if you hit the brakes? Oh, big problem. Anyway, that's Amalek. He's a tailgater. When you see somebody tailgating, that is the force of Amalek. Because now what is Amalek going to do? All right, so he tailgates you, and he drives you crazy, sitting at you. How does this manifest itself? How does the Amalek as a tailgater work? Okay, Amalek is the 30-mile-an-hour truck before you do a mitzvah. Okay, he stands in front of you, and he says, oh, come on. What do you want to go to Minyan for? Maybe this guy in the Minyan was exposed to somebody with corona. And if you go to Minyan, and maybe you won't be social distance enough, and maybe this, and it's really taking a chance. And Amalek, he's a Talmud Chacham. Amalek, he's a Torah scholar. And Amalek says, do you know, protecting your life is more important than davening in a Minyan. And he's got all these things, and he makes you crazy. And then you finally say, get out of my face. Okay. Hashem's going to protect me. And I know decent people. And I've been davening with them for the last 3 weeks. Okay, sure. And nothing's happened to me. And it's the same Minyan. And if somebody was affected, so we'd all be affected. Get out of here. So now you pass him. Right? Now you pass him. And now he pushes you more. Okay, you're davening a Minyan. Now I tell you what, there is a wedding tonight. And this is with a different group of people that don't practice social distancing. Okay, he says, oh, good, then go do the mitzvah. Go make a chassan and kala, dance in front of, get a kesef melachtim. It's a big mitzvah. The Gemara Ketuvah says one of the important mitzvahs to dance in front of chassan and kala. And he wants you to send you to this wedding where people aren't social distancing, where people aren't wearing face masks, people aren't that. He pushes you, go to a mitzvah. I would go to a mitzvah, and then the person catches corona, and then he's up there now for a month he's not going to be davening a minyan, and in a month and a half, and he's going to be in quarantined and alone, and a Malak's going to knock him down, not for not a mitzvah, but because he's pushing him to do more, he's knocking him down to do a lot more. What else? How does he work? He says to a kollel guy or a yeshiva boy, do you know what an important thing is? Like the guy wants to learn. Malak says, nah, I give you a reason. What are you going to learn for? With this and that. There's so much better things to do. Did you check the news today? People are dying. Go check the. No, I don't care about the news. Shem runs the news. My Torah learning makes the news. Oh, Malak says, okay. You pass me by. That's fine. Now it starts pushing. Comes Thursday night, and a Malak says, do you know how important a mishmar is? Why wait to Thursday night? Tonight's Wednesday night. Why do a mishmar on Thursday night? Well, mishmar, really means a guard watch. But what boys do in yeshiva 1 day a week, these are really strong shivas, they stay up all night long. They learn Torah. They stay up all night long. It's a protection for the Jewish people, Klal Yisrael. It's a protection for all the soldiers in the border. It's a protection for everything. Okay, so he says, go do a mishmar. But the way a mishmar works is not that one guy stays up all night long, but there are people learning all night long. Just like they say, the guard watch. Okay, I'm going to be guarding from 9 to 12. Somebody else from 12 to 3. Somebody else from 3 to 6. All right, we're going to switch off and then go get some shut-eye. No, Malak says, what, the importance of mishmar? Learn all night long. You can do it. Come on, you can do it. You're tough. You're a Torah scholar. Learn all night long. Okay, so he gets the young guy to learn all night long. Comes the next morning, he's cross-eyed and he's smashed. He can't go to minyan. He misses Kriya Shema on time. He misses tefillin on time. He sleeps the day through. He misses a whole day of Torah learning. So Malak pushed him to learn all night long. Now he misses davening a minyan, misses a whole load of mitzvahs, and he doesn't do what he should do. He didn't eat breakfast. He didn't eat lunch. He's not eating properly. And if he doesn't eat properly, he can't learn. The mind doesn't function. That is the way a Malak learns. He pushes and pushes and pushes. So we did get rid of him. Sometimes we do not know how to recognize who a Malak is and what he's doing and how he's doing it. So that is why we all need a spiritual guide to tell you who the enemy is. Because sometimes it's obvious. Oh, this is the Yetzer Hara. This is the evil inclination. Sometimes it's not so obvious. So you ask your spiritual guide, you ask your Rav, and you say, wait a second, is this from the dark side or from the light side? Because sometimes it's very difficult to discern who your friends are. Okay, so that's how a Malak operates. He's the tailgater. Okay, and we have to be very, very careful of the way he works. Okay, now we're going to go to the next part. The Malak operates. So if a Malak is the tailgater, what else does that mean that he's a tailgater? And where do we see it now? It not only a Malak works on a private plane, he works on a national plane, attacks the Jewish people. We are under an acute, severe attack from a Malak at this command force. You have to understand. Coronavirus comes from the highest command. It's the Keter. And this is the Keter, the crown of the dark side. And look what it's doing. The Rosh Yeshivas in Israel, I don't know what's going on in America and in New York. I don't know what's going on in London, Gateshead, and important Torah centers. In Israel, the yeshivas are suffering. One of the Rosh Yeshivas, one of the leading Rosh Yeshivas, he cried and he said, this is like a Holocaust for the yeshivas. The boys, because the yeshivas are closed down and because of social distancing, and the boys sent home, what is happening is I heard statistics like this. I did not check them. I cannot verify them. But a Rosh Yeshiva told me that it's like this. The Rosh Yeshiva told me, and respecting him, he asked me to keep his name out of it, but he said like this, you understand? He said 40% of the guys in yeshiva, they're strong, they're dedicated. Wherever you throw them, they're going to learn. They're learning at home, they're learning in streets, they've got havrusas in the parking lot and the sidewalk, and they're in a park. They're learning, 40%. Okay. Another 40% are on the border. and they're wishy-washy. They go this way, go that way, a little push of the wind, and they're going. 20% have fallen out completely. Now, this is what our sages told us at the end of time, right before Mashiach, there would be a bearer. A bearer is like a sifting. And okay, of the guys that Hashem wants dedicated Torah learning. And some people that are sitting in the yeshiva to get a shidduch and for all kinds of reasons, not for learning Torah, these guys are falling out because when they don't get their ulterior motive, then they would learn Torah. The Torah for them is like it's to be twin ends. It's not in itself an ideal. For the first 40%, the guys learn all the time. They know the Torah, it's a way of life. It's our way of life. And we have to continue with this. Okay, so we see that the corona has created a disaster just in this one sector in yeshivas. And it's created a disaster in a lot of people. People that for years, it took them for years before they could daven the minyan. Boom, now they're out of the minyan and that's it. And to just advance that they made in their own observance of Judaism, it's been knocked down. It's been a real setback. Okay, so this is what's going. So we have a national war and a personal war. So how do we protect ourselves against the Malak? What do we do to protect ourselves? Okay, Amalek is a spiritual force. We're not talking about hand to hand. We're not talking about, we learn what we know in hand-to-hand fighting. We can also use here also as I'm going to tell you in a moment. Since Amalek is spiritual force, we have to fight him back with a spiritual force. The Lubavitcher Rebbe used to say that you can't fight darkness with a stick. Maybe you could fight an attack with a stick. You cannot fight darkness with a stick. Okay, how do you fight darkness? Light a little candle. That one little candle can overcome a lot of darkness. See, in a dark room, a jet black room, you light a little candle, a little light. So what happens if you light a bigger candle and a bonfire? A little bit of light gets rid of a lot of darkness. That is the power of illumination, divine illumination, gets rid of a lot of darkness. Okay, so what is the light in our lives? That's Emunah. And that's why we talk about Emunah day and night. Emunah is the only protection against Amalek. Torah strengthens the soul. Torah strengthens the soul. But protection against Amalek, for protection against Amalek, you have to know spiritual Kav Maga, spiritual hand to hand, and that's Emunah. Emunah protects the soul because Amalek is the force of agnosticism, force of atheism. Amalek is the force of denial. Okay, and that's the equal force. Just as strong as Emunah is, that the force of epicursis, the denial, atheism, agnosticism, as we see in modern society, and we see even in Amalek, he controls the media. Amalek controls the press. Amalek controls a lot of stuff because we see what Amalek, he owns political correctness. He owns political correctness. And, it's not politically correct to use the G word. People don't like to hear, oh, that's not politically correct. You can't do that. You could do all types of other things, but when it comes to, in other words, there's democracy in Western society, but there's not democracy for belief in Hashem. Now this, don't want to do. Okay. We could see it was something crazy. Just today in the Israel Supreme Court, there was a request by a observant Jewish lawyer and by a observant Druzi lawyer. The Druzim, they are not Arabs. They consider themselves descendants of Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, but they're from ethnically, they're Semitic Middle East. Okay, they live many Druze in the Golan and in the Galilee. Okay, it was before today. It was in today's paper about a case that was supposed to be heard in the Supreme Court on Tisha B'Av. That the Israeli Supreme Court, they sat session on Tisha B'Av. Okay, so the religious Jewish lawyer, he says, they asked for a delay, that it should be delayed, the court proceeding, because he said it's difficult for him to argue a case with maybe a headache in the afternoon of Tisha B'Av, after he hasn't been eating for 18 hours or drinking a cup of water for 18 hours. and his head is on the base of Mikdash. They denied the request. The Druzi said, this is the eve of our Chag HaKorban. This is the eve of our sacrifice holiday. It's a Druze holiday. Oh, but no, yes, we have to respect this. They respected the request of the Druzi. But when it came to a Jew, Israeli Supreme Court, they're expecting something from the Torah, this they can't do. So see that there's not, we see this all the time. Okay, that is, when you see anytime that something is not done according to the holiness of Torah, Jewish jurisprudence, not according to the holiness of Torah, it's crooked. The only thing that's straight emes of Torah, okay, there's only one truth, and that's the truth of Torah. Okay, 99% truth is 100% lie. Don't ever forget that. Okay, so we said Amalek is a national enemy, is an individual enemy. Okay, so we said the spiritual anatomy of Amalek, we gave you Amalek's pedigree in the beginning. Okay, but now how does this manifest himself? How does Amalek attack us? Now at one fell swoop, and this is proof that Mashiach is so close. Corona is good news. Why? Corona is proof that Mashiach is so very close, and Amalek is now calling out the reserves from the highest level of spiritual impurity, and Hashem allows this to happen. Okay, you have to remember, he can't do anything against Hashem. This is Hashem's will, okay, because of the strength of the desire for Mashiach and the strength of the desire to bring Beis Hamikdash. Now it has to be equal and opposite to maintain free choice. So Amalek, and our sages tell us that when Mashiach comes, all the Amalek and the dark side and the Sitra Achra, they're going to be slaughtered. So Amalek knows that his end is soon. So now he's calling out the reserves, and he's bringing out his doomsday weapons. Coronavirus is a doomsday weapon of Amalek. Okay, and it's designed to delay Mashiach, and designed to delay everything. And you'll see, we mentioned, last week was Tisha B'Av. And why do we have Tisha B'Av? And the Gemara tells us that the second temple was destroyed because of Sinas Chinam. And we told 2 weeks ago the story of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa. Okay, and about the slander and Lashon Hara. Okay, and then we said, if you remember our Tisha B'Av Shur, our pre-Tisha B'Av Shur, we said that any generation that doesn't build a temple is if they destroyed it. So how do you do that? What, I was at Kamsa's party, okay, and I insulted Bar Kamsa. I didn't do that. But maybe you're insulting somebody else. Maybe you're insulting Bar Kamsa's great-great-grandson. Maybe you spoke against them. Stop and think how many times at the Shabbat table, when the whole family's around, somebody talks against this group of Jews, that group of Jews, this rabbi, that rabbi, this one, that one. We think we're doing something holy. We're talking about truth. We're talking about the pursuit of justice, the pursuit of reality. This is Amalek. He's pushing it back. Oh yeah, go ahead and talk about it. This is searching for truth. There's a spiritual law that the Gemara brings down. You cannot do a mitzvah by performing a transgression. Robin Hood is not a kosher human being according to Torah. Robin Hood is a hero in the UK. Robin Hood robs from the rich and gives to the poor. Thank you, Robin Hood. No, we're supposed to give from our tithe, our miser, or our fifth, the chomesh. If you really have strong emunah, you give a fifth of your net salary to charity. Yeah, that's what we do. We do not rob from the rich. Rob from the rich, period. That's robbery. That's Iser Doraisa. That's terrible. Oh, but in British folklore, this is, he's a folk hero. Robin Hood in Nottingham Forest, he's robbing the rich and he's giving to the poor. Bravo, Robin Hood. No, Robin Hood. You're in the base of Mikdash, you get stones thrown at you. No, this is the difference between Torah truth and not Torah truth. So we do not do a mitzvah by doing an avera. It is not a mitzvah to speak bad about any other human being, much less any other Jew, much less a spiritual leader of another group. We don't talk about that. Sure, and look, there are rabbis in Israel that don't wear masks, and there are rabbis in Israel that their whole groups, they don't keep social distancing. Oh, there's some people that, yeah, there is something, very big differences. There's very big differences. The difference between the Belzer Rov and the Ger Rebbe is completely opposite. What somebody, what they can't be truth. One thing you got to know. When, and it used to be when Lubavitcher Rebbe would have disagreements, or Rav Shach would talk against the Lubavitcher, don't get in the middle. It's like two Mack trucks driving down, aiming at each other. Don't stand between two Mack trucks. When two greats of Israel arguing, get out of there. Don't talk. Let them argue. This isn't much arguments going into Hashem. If two spiritual leaders of two great groups are arguing, then same argument's going up in a Shemayim. Same argument going up in Hashem, in Hashem's base midrash, which is called the Mestifta, the upper Mesifta. But the rabble-rousers, the students of this Rebbe, or the students of that Rebbe, no, our Rebbe is right. I remember, get out of here, little functionaries, get out of here, little mice. But the elephants are arguing and the mice are mixing in. No, you don't do that. You don't do that. Oh, people think they're doing a mitzvah. This is a malak tailgating them, pushing them at the Shabbos table. The Chofetz Chaim says you speak evil at the Shabbos table, it's 7 times worse than speak evil in the middle of the week. And once you speak about a rabbi, a spiritual leader, you speak about anybody who is a properly ordained rabbi that's considered a Talmid Chacham, a guy with a real ordination, and much less who's head of a community. You know what the Gemara says about that? That amevazet Talmid Chacham ein refuah lemakosoi. That anyone who disparages a Torah scholar, there is no cure to the plague against. Oh my goodness. And people still allow themselves, beloved brothers and sisters, there's one thing I want everybody to do tonight. Not going to ask you a thing, do good, great, big, difficult things. Is that one thing is that everyone, okay, if you're my friend, you're my beloved brother, my cherished sister, please ask Hashem. You can't promise Hashem that you're not going to listen to any Lashon Hara, not going to talk. Hashem, help me that I should refrain from any slander, any Lashon Hara, and learn the basics, okay? And this, by just taking this one Kabbalah, this one I accept on me, this mitzvah of guarding my tongue. Please, I want us all accept the mitzvah of guarding my tongue. This will be a spiritual protection for you and a spiritual protection for your whole family. And now, I'm going a little bit of Kabbalah, show you how this works, and then I'll tell you a story, make your hair stand up. Okay, Baruch Hashem. Now we're getting into the big action. Today, I had the privilege of learning Tzidkas Tzaddik. It's the book of Rabbi Tzaddik HaKohen of Lublin. Rabbi Tzaddik HaKohen of Lublin, he died 120 years ago. He was a big Kabbalist, Hasidic Kabbalist. He lived in the 19th century Poland, in Lublin in Poland. They call him Rabbi Tzaddik in Yiddish. Rabbi Tzaddik HaKohen of Lublin. He wrote many, many books. He was a Kabbalic leader of his generation and a Rebbe. Okay. Monumental Talmid Chacham. Monumental. They say it according to Kabbalah that Reb Tzaddik of Lublin, they call him the Kohen Gadol because he had an incarnation of the soul of one of the holy Kohanim of the building from the base of Mikdash. He's the one, when I mentioned the spiritual anatomy in the beginning, that the snake is the equivalent of different levels of, I mentioned the levels of the snake. This information I got, I'm not a Kabbalist, this information I got from Rabbi Tzadok. This I attribute. I should have attributed it before, but I was into explaining it, didn't want to get sidetracked. But my source material for much of tonight's lesson was in 2 great Kabbalists, one a Hasidic Kabbalist, Rabbi Tzadok of Lublin, and the other the Ben Ish Chai, the great Ben Ish Chai from Baghdad in Iraq. He's the greatest Sephardi Kabbalist of his generation. Okay, Rabbi Tzadok says like this. He talks about, when we talk about the upper crown, the upper Keter, and the lower Keter. In other words, there's a higher Gan Eden and a lower Gan Eden. It's the Keter Elyon is the higher crown, and the higher Gan Eden. And the lower Gan Eden, it's the Keter Tachton. That's the lower crown. And just they have the equivalent of Amalek, okay? Amalek is the opposite of the low we said is in this world. So he corresponds to the lower crown. To the higher crown, that is the snake and Esau's angel and the Satan. How do they manifest in this world? What does it mean? What do we get there? Okay. For this, the Ben Ish Chai teaches. The Ben Ish Chai says that the Keter, which is the highest emanation of divine light, it brings everything good. And the imagery of the highest emanation of the Keter, it filters down to this world as the Geffen. The Geffen is the grapevine. Okay, the Geffen is a grapevine. Now, King David, who was a great Kabbalist, King David alluded to this. He said, Ishtahake Geffen Puriya. When he said, why did King David say in Psalms that your wife is like a fruitful grapevine? It means you're going to have a lot of kids. You're going to have wonderful kids. Okay, but we said Geffen. He could say your wife is like a fruitful orange tree, or your wife is like a fruitful fig tree. No, the Geffen, because King David knew this, and he knew he was invoking the divine light of the upper emanation of godliness, which is Geffen, Gimel Pei Nun, the grapevine. Now, you can understand why we say when you find your shidduch, Inve Geffen and Inve Geffen, we confer a shidduch. We say this at the engagement before the wedding. We say that this is the grapevine and the grapevine. In other words, Cabernet Sauvignon is marrying Cabernet Sauvignon. The two grapes and two birds of a feather, they come together because you really do have some neshama. So what are our sages telling us when they say Inve Geffen, Inve Geffen? That the grapes of the grapevine, they're coming together. This again is an illusion that our shidduchim come from grapevine, okay, from the Geffen, the upper emanation. Now comes along the Ashkenazi, the Hasidic Kabbalahs, and they say in Yiddish, Geffen, they wish you would Geffen. If you say an old Chassid, and you know the guy knows his stuff, and he says you should be blessed with Geffen, say right away Amen. Because what's Geffen? Gesinnt Parnosa mit Nachas. Gesinnt is health, Parnosa is your income, and Nachas is gratification. All come from the divine emanation. Divine emanation. Now the Ben Ish Chai, this is what he teaches us. Same thing Rabbi Tzadok says. You say the Emes Torah, you find it, whether by the Ashkenazim, whether by the Sephardim. We're talking about two great Kabbalists, 19th century Kabbalists, and they were one in Poland, one in Iraq. Okay, learn the same thing, but learn deeper things. Comes the Ben Ish Chai, and it tells us, and this is the eye-opener, tells us how the dark side works. He said the dark side is not allowed to do more than the holy. It can't give more impure darkness than there is holy light. In other words, if there's a grade 100 holy light, 100 watts of holy light, then the dark side can only go up to 100 watts of darkness, 100 negative watts of darkness. Can't do more. It's got to be perfect. So when the divine emanation, the Keter, the holy crown, which is the highest level of godliness, gives into this world, Geffen, comes the dark side and can only take the Gimel, the Pei, and the Nun, and it turns around into Negef. Instead of Gimel, Pei, Nun, Nun, Gimel, Pei, which means epidemic. Ben Ish Chai, from 130 years ago, he wrote this. Okay, the divine emanation of the Keter, the divine emanation of the crown becomes an epidemic. And now we can understand what Hashem is teaching us. Why did Hashem give it to make this virus look like a crown? Why was it called coronavirus? To Hashem say, this is the Keter. Look what's happening. Because of your slander, because of your sinas chinam, because of the way you destroyed Beis Hamikdash and the Meraglim that has been corrected today. Now I got to bring Mashiach. Hashem is telling us it's time to build Beis Hamikdash, and nobody's waking up. So here's the dark side crown, and there it is. So now people ask me all the time. They say, Lazer, what are you talking about? That we're still doing? Look at the holy people that died. Look at the holy people that died. Are you going to say that they're guilty of Lashon Hara? No, they're not. But the generation is. And the Gemara tells us that sometimes the tzaddikim die because they're caught up in the sin of the generation. Yoshia, Amelech Yoshiyahu, and we cry about this on Tisha B'Av. King Yoshiyahu was a perfect tzaddik, but he got killed when he was, they made him like can't even say the death. He was stabbed with so many spears, and it's unspeakable. Unspeakable. We cry about this on Tisha B'Av. He didn't sin. His whole life was a perfect tzaddik. It was because of his generation. Because of his generation. Now, I'm going to tell you a story, and this is an amazing, amazing story. Okay. Hold on to your seats. Hold on to your seats. This story, if you want to check the veracity of the story, we heard a story from the Rosh Hashiva of Me'or Yitzchak, Rabbi Ephraim Vaxman, the Rosh Hashiva, Rabbi Ephraim Vaxman. Okay, the story's been published, and it has been told it is a mitzvah to share the story with everyone you know. I'm not only allowing you, but I'm asking you, share this story with everyone you know. Rabbi Ephraim Vaxman, the Rosh Hashiva, he talks about one of the best boys in his yeshiva. The boy became sick and he died. And this was a tragedy in yeshiva. Me'or Yitzchak, it was a tragedy. People could, it was like what we say, thunder on a clear day. All of a sudden, in the middle of the summer in Eretz Yisrael, rain comes. It doesn't happen. All of a sudden, they lost this boy. Well, his mother was beside herself. Nobody could console her. And she cried, and she cried, and she cried, and she cried. Well, after the shloshim, after the 30 days of mourning, where in the 7 days of mourning you cry, 30 days of very much cry. And after that, okay, for a son, for a parent, we continue on the mourning, but after the son, like we still send to say Kaddish, heaven forbid, heaven forbid, heaven forbid. The mom still cried as if her dead son was right there in front of her. And she couldn't accept any type of consolation. Nothing helped. Where her son came to her in a dream. And he said, Mom, you're not doing good by me because of your crying. Mom, you should know, I am one of the highest places in the Garden of Eden. I'm with perfect tzaddikim. And she said, she's being her dream, she spoke to him. She said, why does Hashem take you away from me? Why does Hashem take you away from me? He says, Mom, I'm not allowed to reveal to you, but I can tell you one thing. You know why young people die? You know why there are young people that die in this generation? This I can tell you, Mom, general. Me particular, no, but it wasn't my sin. Young people die in this generation because of Lashon Hara, because of slander, because all the slander going around. The slander creates impurity. It creates impurity, and it neutralizes the divine light. And the divine light is life. It's longevity. Okay, and it's sometimes the righteous of the generation have to pay the price. They pay the price, just like a ritual sacrifice. There's no base of mikdash. And the mother says, well, why? I can't believe. He says, Mom, listen, I want you to stop crying. And I do want to do one thing. I want you to tell the story to everyone. And I'm going to tell you one more thing, Mom, because I see the Chafetz Chaim. Chafetz Chaim is up here. The Chafetz Chaim promises, this is her son coming to her in a dream. The Chafetz Chaim promises that anyone that learns his book every day, learns 2 simple laws of his book, the Chafetz Chaim will protect them and their family. Mom, do you know what that means? It means protects their lives, protects their livelihood, protects their divine illumination. They have all the blessing that comes down, the Chafetz Chaim protection. And I said, Mom, I'll tell you something even more. I want you to tell the story how I came to you in a dream and what I told you, because the Chafetz Chaim says anyone that encourages other people to guard their tongue, then they get even a higher level of divine protection. Okay, and then he left her. And a Rosh Hashiva got hold of the mother, told her to Rosh Hashiva, and a Rosh Hashiva says, I don't ask, I command everyone to share this story. Rosh Hashiva, Ephraim Vaxman of Me'or Yitzchak, the Rosh Hashiva. Beloved brothers and sisters, you know what this means? There is no cure right now for coronavirus. Every day, somebody comes to the bat and somebody says, oh, we've discovered a cure, and it turns out to be a hoax. And this is what this did. Okay, if there's a cure, people talk about a cure, and their stock goes up in the stock market on London Exchange, the New York Exchange, or Tel Aviv Exchange, and then comes around and they say, like in Hebrew, that the words like sand, but there's nothing to eat. Okay, no vaccine. This, a promise from the Chafetz Chaim, that he from Shemayim will be a spiritual protection. How can the Chafetz Chaim make this promise? Exactly now understand what we learned. That the Gesund, Parnosa, and the Nachas. This is the Geffen. This is the divine crown, the light side crown, which includes our soulmate, our livelihood, our health. It's from the health. And how do we protect it? We protect it by committing to healthy speech. And we protect ourselves even more by helping to spread this mitzvah. You can tell the story. You can tell the story. It says, but this, once you tell the story to other people, you yourself are a Mizakeh Rabim, you yourself are a Lashon Hara outreach activist, and you get the promise of the Chafetz Chaim. Because we see that by everything we learn, the spiritual anatomy, why they go through this whole spiritual anatomy, if I'm not mistaken, and Hashem should forgive me if I am, but I want to put it on the line, that the cause of the coronavirus is the slander and the sinas chinam, the intramural hate. People could talk about all kinds of stuff and this and that. People don't eat kosher chickens. I don't know what people say. Okay, forget about it. This guarantee. And then we understand why the Chafetz Chaim left everything and just concentrated on these laws. Beloved brothers and sisters, I ask you to join me. It's the same thing I said on Tisha B'Av and say it again. Join me, first of all, a commitment. I'm not going to say anything bad about any other human being. You say, oh, wait a second, talk about about the enemies. Yesterday, I sent a consolation in Arabic and in English to the people of Beirut. People say, oh, you fought in Beirut. Yeah, but that's the war. I know there are plenty of good people in Lebanon. I have plenty of friends in Lebanon, Christian friends in Lebanon. And they were oppressed by the Hezbollah. You think, but all of Lebanon is Hezbollah. That's not true. There's good people in Lebanon, but they're enemies. And even if they are enemies, Shmuel Katan says, don't rejoice in the fall of your enemy. No, we're Jews. We love human beings because Hashem has, we don't even want to see the Egyptians fall in the sea. Hashem is Hashem's creations. Okay, so we don't rejoice in that. And people say, oh, they allow themselves to talk bad about. No, we don't talk bad about anyone. Okay, an enemy is somebody that comes at me with a knife or a gun. Yeah, and this I try my very best to protect myself and neutralize. But other than that, that's not an enemy. Other than that's not an enemy. He just has to learn the Emunah yet. Doesn't know this Hashem. As soon as he learns the Emunah and learn to be a Hashem, I guarantee you, if you had a choice and could sit down with Hamas or anybody else and talk straight Emunah, okay, Kadi, put your knife down. You're going to talk about straight faith without political agenda. Okay, we can make peace. We can make peace with anyone. Who do you make peace with? You make peace with your enemies. But people don't. So what do? They used to talk about enemies, but then tomorrow a Jew is their enemies. They talk about a Jew. A good competitor in business, they talk about him. If we learn not to speak about any other human being, that same human being, tomorrow morning, he could be a Noahide. Could teach him he could be a Noahide. And there's a very high place in Gan Eden for Noahides. All right. And the Gemara in Tractate Avodah Zarah says that a non-Jew that learns Torah and learns in Moed Mitzvahs, he's just as high as the Kohen Gadol. This is the Gemara. It's not my words. So we don't talk about anybody. And we certainly don't talk about a Jew. And we certainly don't talk about a spiritual leader of Jews. And we certainly don't talk about a group of Jews. And because there's all this talk, and now you see behind me, right behind me is the ruins of Shiloh. This is Mishkan Shiloh. Before the Holy Tabernacle came to Jerusalem, it was in beautiful Shiloh. And because of the Lashon Hara there, this what Shiloh looks like. It's an archaeological dig. So you see, this should influence us. Baruch Hashem, we should rebuild Eretz Yisrael, and we should bring Mashiach and put an end to coronavirus. And we can do this if enough of us commit to keeping a clean tongue. That's all I ask. All I ask. Nobody say, but not frumkeit, be religious. Don't forget about religious. first of all, Zayim Mensch, be a human being and don't talk about any other human being. And God bless. And once again, to Michael, happy birthday. And to everybody that needs a shidduch, find a wonderful shidduch on Tu B'Av. Okay, we got time. We went a little over time, but I'm going to answer questions. Anybody wants to ask questions? First, I'm going to make a bracha because I got a problem. This is not silicone, it's flesh and blood. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol nהיה b'dvoro. Lovely. Okay, who did I say? Let me see a couple of quick hellos till the first questions come on. And let's go in a gallery view here and say hello to our friends that are with us on Zoom, and to everybody I don't see who's with us on Facebook Live, but welcome. David, how are you? David, Brother David. Avigail Avram, welcome. Oh, Shandler, my cousin Shandler from Mexico City. Mucho gusto, okay, and Elise Portman, hi Elise. Joe Masri, hey, Jose. Hola. David, ay, mi hermano, querida hermano. Hey, David, ¿cómo estás? Eileen, is Miss Miami, Miss Jewish Mama Miami. Hi, Eileen, God bless you, baby. And in regards to you, to the family too. Okay, and the Fisher family, how you doing? And Gennady and Elisheva, also in South Miami. Ariel Kohana, how you doing? Henry Eliezer, hey, my brother, how are you? Okay, Priscilla, Shalom, mucho gusto. Robin Miller, hi, Robin. And was it Tzipora Lazar? Good to see you. Natalie and Flora and Ezra, wonderful to see you. Yulia Abramova, Как ваши здоровья, Yulia Fruma, Yoshua, good to see you. And Mangabi, Yachet Adler, Courtney, and let's see, haven't hit anybody yet. Alisa in Houston, there you go. Look at that. Yeah, Lisa came on, and it was Rita Giano. Hi, Rita. Isaac. Okay, and let's see, who did I see? Rivka Enton. I'm trying to get everybody on the screen here. Tuli, how are you doing? Baruch Hashem. Okay, Yachet, I'm going to get right with you in a second, and we'll start answering questions. Say hello to everybody. Shani, Courtney, we said hello to everybody. Okay, if there's anybody that I didn't say hello to, flash me on chat and I'll say hello to you. Okay, Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Okay, who's got the first question? Okay, good. Thank you, Ariel. Thank you, my brother. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, they do say name of Torah. Should we publicly defy these people or simply ignore them? Okay, we have one question. What people do, in the name of Torah. Yeah, everybody likes to talk about in the name of Torah, for sure. Okay, so this, I usually ignore them because if we not, then we get into a fight. And it takes two to tango. And these people are looking for trouble. Ignore them as a group. They're accessories to every other thing, but ignore them. Okay. Yachat Adler to everyone. Is there an email address where I could send questions? Yes, there is an email address. Okay, I'll let you have the email address. By the way, it's much easier for me to answer questions right here. As long as they're questions, I'm not going anywhere. But if you want to, you can hit me by Brody Beams, BRODYBEAMS @gmail.com. Okay, and you're welcome. Okay, you got that? Good. Okay. Yulia, thank you too. Good to see you. Good. And good. Elisa wonders, is it a good time to come to seminary in Israel if I can't make Aliyah now? Good time to come in seminary. Okay, if you come to seminary in Israel, you end up staying here. Okay, Baruch Hashem. That's what's going to be. Okay, and any time is a great time to come to Eretz Yisrael. And like I say, if anybody's got a problem coming to Eretz Yisrael, you could talk to the head of Nefesh B'Nefesh and tell him you're a friend of Lazer. Okay? Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. Okay, let's see. Any other questions? Go ahead, guys, I'm here. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Good. Good. Okay. Michael, you with us? Okay. Anybody, any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, if you do, you can unmute or ask Michael to unmute you. He's got. Okay. From a thank you. That's really nice. Nice of you to say. Okay. If there are any questions, post them in the chat. Okay. Schendele, Agoisen Dan. Gesund die Johann, gesund zurück zu dir. Okay. Good. Okay. Vivian's with us. Hi, Vivian. Good. Any other questions? Anybody? Yeah, go ahead, Eileen. Go ahead. You want to unmute? Here, I'm unmuting Eileen. Vivian, can you unmute Eileen? Eileen's iPhone. Let's see. Unmute audio. There you go. Okay. Good. Eileen, fire away. I can't hear you. Eileen.
Unmute.
Oh,
I'm
now
trying. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Oh man, thank you. Okay, first of all, thank you. That was such an amazing class you gave. You're spot on. You're always spot on, but especially spot on.
Takes one to know.
Thank you. So I have a question in regard to kind of, it's not really Lashon Hara, but it has legs to it. So okay. Here it is. Because we always want to do things for the sake of peace, and yet we live for the sake of truth. So, we balance that.
Right.
Okay. So if you know someone is not telling you the truth, for a fact, do you ignore it or do you confront them? If you confront them because you know the truth, it's not a hearsay. Or or even if you have a question about it, do you confront them because you would like to, perhaps they could share light and make it better?
That is a dynamite question. Let me repeat that question and make sure that everybody got it.
Okay.
Eileen Friedman from Miami, she asked us a fantastic question. Okay, somebody is lying to you. Somebody, and they are. They're not telling you the truth. Okay.
Correct.
Eileen says, now here we're talking about a balance. I'm adding a little commentary to Eileen's question, a balance between peace and truth. All right. Do we contract them? We say, hey, listen, my brother, my sister, you're a liar. Okay. Or else this is not true. It's simply not true. I've got proof it's not true. Here I've got recordings, I've got photography, I've got everything. Okay, there's one thing. Eileen, some people don't want to hear the truth.
I know.
Okay.
Agreed.
Okay. And many people don't want to hear the truth. They can't handle it. Okay. So by telling the truth, it's starting an argument. All right. By starting an argument, mud gets thrown. Okay. And,
exactly.
you're wearing that nice, fresh, laundered, white blouse, and it gets a chunk more like you don't want that. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you see there's nobody to talk to on the other side, walk away. Okay, sis, my bro, you're right. Fine, I'm wrong. Good. The Gemara in Baba Kama says that to avoid an argument, if somebody calls you an ass, a donkey, okay, then put a saddle on your back and go hee-haw. In other words, this is the Gemara says that. The Gemara says, acknowledge his words. Now, that's not true. It's not true. You're not a donkey, and you don't have a saddle on your back, but you're neutralizing an argument. You're neutralizing a war. So Hashem is going to give you anything that you would gain out of winning the argument. You're going to get 100 times more from Hashem, and we're going to get it. You're going to get it from the upper emanation, the Geffen we were talking about.
Correct. So there's no need to clarify what you believe to be true. It's best to just let it go.
No need to clarify. No need to clarify. Okay. All right. Now, if it's your daughter, and if your daughter, heaven forbid, I'm saying somebody that's close to you and
good learning,
accepts from you. Okay. But your daughter, because of something out of fear, or maybe she's afraid you're going to punish her, or maybe this, or maybe that. And she told you something that wasn't true. And now you say, listen, sweetheart, you know, mom, and mom loves you more than anything. And you don't ever have to be afraid. And you don't have to be afraid to tell mom things that aren't accurate. You know, and mom knows that the sun came up yesterday in Miami and it went down at 7 p.m. or whatever. You know, the moon didn't come up in the morning. Okay, mom knows that. All right, and because you tell mom that the moon came up in the morning and it didn't. I understand you, sweetheart. You give her a hug and this and that. And in other words, if someone will accept from you, then it's a mitzvah to tell them the truth. In other words,
so that's what I'm wrestling with. So if you can lovingly confront someone who's very dear to you, and you can lovingly confront them, you should.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Fair enough.
But that is if it's not going to lead to a war.
Correct. No wars. Yeah,
not going to lead to a war. There are.
Because at the same time,
things we could talk about, situations like at Shalom Bayit that we can't talk about in public, and this and that are situations that have to do confronting a.
Well, because when someone's not telling you the truth, in other words, I don't want to use the word liar because it's just a strong word, but that's what it is. And then you wind up making someone feel bad, and if you make them feel bad, they become defensive. And then you continue more lashon hara, or you continue more making someone feel bad, which is what we don't want to do.
Perfect. That's exactly it. You got the.
All right.
You got it. That's exactly it.
So
if you can do it, and you can do it and get it so they'll accept, and this is what the Gemara says. That's a mitzvah to chastise someone if they will accept the chastisement. And it's a mitzvah not to chastise if they won't accept the chastisement.
I understand.
Even if there's a small chance that they won't accept, don't bother. Okay?
I hear you. Yes. All right.
Good.
Thank you for the answers. Great guidance.
Every blessing. Any other questions? Any other questions? With pleasure. Okay, if not everybody, then I'm just going to wish everybody every blessing and good health and wonderful parnasa. Great shidduchim if you need one, and great shidduchim for your children if your children need shidduchim, and have lots of wedding invitations. And Hashem should neutralize the corona, so go back to have happy weddings where everybody can dance with everybody and eat one at the table together. And we should all be able to eat at the table with Mashiach, with the grand meal of Lev Yosef and Shor Bar Spi in our days. Amen. God bless. Good to see you. Once again, reminder, next week's lesson at 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. God bless you and take care, everyone. Bye-bye.